Welcome back to Under Oath. Today we're going to be interviewing American actress Elizabeth Mitchell. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
I can. Hi. I'm so happy to be here.
You know, I've tracked your career for a little bit now, and I love everything you're in, but I really love what you're doing with your new movie. The movie Possum Trot. You know, why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
So it's not very often that you get to do something like this. It's certainly a first for me. So it's, it's where your sensibilities and your art kind of come together. So it's this beautiful story about this little town in Possum Trot, Texas, and this 22 families get together and they adopt 77 kids of the hardest to place kids out of the foster care system. And they come together as a community and they make it work. And as they say, they have very little, but they come together for these kids. And it is the most beautiful story. It absolutely touches your heart, even just hearing it. But then they've made this beautiful movie about it, and I get to be part of it. And I'm just feeling very, very grateful and kind of excited about the idea of people seeing this and kind of what the action that it makes us want to take, the idea that we are responsible for these kids, that there are these vulnerable among us that our hearts go out to. And it's exciting. It's just really exciting. It's the fact that the movie is being well received by critics is super cool too. It's exciting.
You know, this isn't a sequel, but it follows the same concept of Sound of Hope, where it's important for us to protect our children. It's important for us to do what we can for those who are the least protected. I mean, how important was that for you when you were choosing this role?
I mean, I think, the minute they told me I was playing a social worker, I was all in. And then when I heard the story, I've always, of course, when you say I love kids, I mean, that's not, I'm not alone in saying that. I think as a community, no matter what we believe, we love children. We have a special place in our hearts for the most vulnerable amongst us. And I think that's what it appealed to for me, is the idea that there is action that can be taken. There are children who can be, protected. There are so many children just free floating in our foster care system who are untethered, who don't have a home, who don't have people there to tell them that they are meant to be loved, that they are meant to be seen. And I think that doesn't have to be, I don't think it has to work that way. So that's what drew me to it, is it wasn't just this idea of, oh, that's terrible. It was this idea of, no, this is what can be done. And we did it. And we did it with very little. And I think that's what's so inspiring to me about the movie and why I wanted to do it.
Now, you've been on big Disney movies, big sets and everything else, studio films. And the opportunity to be on something that is so important as this topic, is the whole cast and everyone who's putting together this aware of this while they're shooting?
Yes. So, Joshua Wiegels, they lived with these families in this community for Joshua and Rebecca for about 4 years. So they immersed themselves in this story. Everybody who is part of this came together with their hearts in the right place. It was all about the kids, and it was all about presenting this story because it does inspire you to do something, So, Nika and Demetrius and Gianna, our cast, we all came into it with this hope that something that we love to do. We love to entertain. We love to tell these stories. But I think this one touched us all in a very unique way because it's a true story. These people did this. They were able to accomplish this, and it can be done. It's not something that's in the far future, and it's not something that's so far out of the realm of what is possible. It was done. It is being done. And there's something extraordinary about that at a time when we're all feeling a bit, there can be a bit of a feeling of hopelessness, but this is something that is true, that is good, that shows the best of us. And I think that's a perfect thing for July 4th.
Well, what's amazing to me, whether I'm writing a comic book or I actually practice law helping a family, some things stick with you, and you've done a lot of projects. How do you believe that this is going to stick with you? I
I think, the things that stick with me are always the ones that affect your heart. And obviously, as an entertainer, I think there's something valuable in that. If it's just that you've lifted someone else or you kind of spotlighted something. And I think this is the kind of movie that shines a light. And I think, you feel that there's an extra special joy to that, to be able to shine a light on something that is deeply personal to me. My dad was adopted, so it feels really good to be able to, yes, be an entertainer, but to also do something that is so deeply needed. I can't describe it. It's beautiful.
Now, one thing I've been able to interview a lot of actors over the last couple of years, and I'm always amused where they live. A lot of live in Texas, some live in Nashville, some live and you always heard that, listen, if you want to be successful in Hollywood and do movies, you have to be there. But since COVID, I guess we can do whatever we want. And I love that you live in Washington because it's such a beautiful place to live.
It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. And I left Los Angeles about 18 years ago. And I think, for me, I think quality of life is so important. So I think that balancing work, which I love, and a life, which I love, is really great. But it always felt to me when I was in Los Angeles that you're kind of just in a waiting room. And I didn't feel like that was a good way for me to live my life. I felt like I needed to be fully in it and raise my family and enjoy my life and then go and do the things that I love to do. So it's been a great balance for me, but of course everybody's different.
My father lived in Washington a long time, down, closer to Vancouver. And it's beautiful from about, let's just call it April to September. And then it rains for approximately 4 or 5 months. Do you get used to that over time?
So I love it. I mean, I'm a pale little creature, so I love the no heat. I love the drizzle. I'm in Texas now because I'm going to head down with the Martins and watch the premiere with all the kids. But I was walking around at 9:30 the other night in my garden. It's so light, it's so bright up there. So just thinking, I just live in the most fairy tale like place. It's just gorgeous.
You are very famous for a show called Lost that was on a couple of years ago. Are you amazed at the longevity of something like that?
So amazed. I mean, so completely amazed. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I think I talked to about 15 people about it. And I was amazed that it's been so long since it was on. My son was just born, so 18 years for me. And I feel like I'm still approached about it daily, and I think that's extraordinary. I really do. I had no idea it would have that kind of staying power. I loved it. I think the story is amazing, and I loved working on it. But to have that kind of longevity is crazy.
Now, the problem with being on a show like that is you have super fans. For example, I write comic books, so people come to me and ask me what this meant or the things that I don't even think about. Is it I guess it's a compliment, but at the same time, you're going, I don't know enough about this show, even though I was on it.
When people come to discuss it, I'm all in. Plus, it's always fun to hear someone else's perspective. I get to turn mine every day. I live with myself. So I absolutely love to hear what other people have to think. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I like it.
And then people also notice you from the Disney movies. They know you from the Santa Claus and all the different versions of it. I mean, every time they come up with a new movie for that one, are you going, okay, another 3 months?
In all honesty, I love working with Tim. I love doing that kind of heartfelt, silly comedy. So it's nothing but a joy for me. I mean, I love that character. So having done that character for 25 years has been a joy. Like I think it's great. To be able to play the same character over the course of your life is a unique and kind of wonderful thing. I think it's great. Every time they ask me, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Because I know I'm going to laugh for 3 months, right? I'm going to laugh. I'm going to get to hang out with cool kids. Like, it's just the best.
I was just talking to an actress from that 70s show the other day, and she revisited her character 18 years later. And I can't even imagine going, okay, time to put the clothes back on again. Do you think about how to change a character, or you just go, okay, I'm putting on the coat again?
I think that the characters, of course, you hope evolve, right? That's what leads to good comedy. But I think for me, luckily, I've actually also gotten older as my character has. So I've had also changes in my life, and it's fun to see her become a mom and see how she is at that and see how that changed her. And from the very first movie to the last little series that we did, she's just come so far. She started as this kind of very uptight, scared principal, very stern, kind of like locked down in her life. And then you have her this kind of expansive, funny, joyful mom. And I don't know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the journey for her. I really did.
Now, I talked to a lot of actors about the change of technology over a period of time, and the little things from have you been amazed by it? Go, wow, it's really evolved since the first movie I did.
I mean, the cameras have gotten much smaller. There's also, we had at one time so many cords everywhere when we were just going to digital. So I think, we changed in the course of my work. We went from, shooting on film, which was that you'd have this mag of film, and so you had a finite amount that you could do, to digital, where we can just do it endlessly and change cards and get going. So I think that the technological advances have just made everything a little bit smaller and slightly easier when it comes to film. So that's been really fun. And also watching, of course, special effects have been amazing. You go from Conan, which was, you thought, wow, that's kind of amazing, to where we are now with the Marvel movies. And I think it's just extraordinary. It really is. It's been fun to watch.
What I love about actresses like you is that you grew up in theater. You earned your keep, being on the stage, and you go over to do movies and television. Do you ever go, listen, I would love to be back on the stage for another 3 months or 6 months or anything like that?
So it's funny that you said that, because my son is going to college. I'm so happy. But
my daughter too. It's not great.
Congratulations. It's so exciting. But I think one of the reasons that I stuck with doing film and TV is because I could work 6 months out of the year and then make sure I was really home for him, which I've loved. It's been incredible. But he's going to college. So I think about a year ago, I said to my agents, I was like, oh my gosh, I can go back to theater. Now, it's a hard life if you're not going to live where your kids are. I can't have him in Seattle and then I'm working in New York. So I think that it's going to be a new time. And yes, I do miss it. I kind of long for it in a lot of ways. So I'll be really excited to get back to it.
Please tell me your child isn't torturing you like mine and going in for college for theater.
No, I have a child who is actually quite a lovely actor, but has no desire to do it. He's a math guy. He's a math and science guy. So he is completely doing his own thing, very self-motivated. But I have to tell you, young theater kids are just the best. They're just the sweetest. I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, that was a tough thing. My daughter has always been perfect, but with theater, it's so hard to tell them how tough it's going to be, but to be supportive at the same time.
I bet you're doing it though, because I think you are a very supportive person. Everyone in the world told me it was impossible, and that I certainly wasn't going to be one of the few who could make it, and that it was never going to happen, and that I wasn't special enough for this enough or that enough. And I think for me, it just gave me even more of a reason to do it. I was like, wow, you just don't know what I'm capable of. And I do. So I think that kind of those cautionary tales, if it's something that they're meant to do, they'll just spur them on. So I think it's great. All the warnings in the world couldn't have turned me away. And trust me, I heard all of them.
Your agent calls you tomorrow, says, guess what? There's a part on Broadway. It's a small play. It's starting in about 3 weeks. Do you say, you know what? I think I can do this?
Oh, absolutely. I say yes. I mean, the minute I drop, my son off of college on August 27th, I am absolutely say yes. I'm all for it. I think it would be incredible.
My daughter just went through that whole process of picking colleges and tests and having to write essays and everything else. How crazy did that make you over the last year?
He is such a self-motivated kid. He's the kid that would get up early in the morning and do his homework without being nudged for it. And I want to be really clear, this is not my parenting. I was not that kid. So I just happened to get one of those kids. And I feel like it was just, I just kind of lucked out there. He did all of it himself. He did all his applications himself. I feel even really guilty saying it because all of my girlfriends and my family were all having that with all of our other kids in our world. So he was just one of those self-motivated kids. I'm super, super proud of him. But we'll see what happens. But I do think did you get really invested invested as to where they were going to go and if they get their choice. And that's what I did. I was just like, you've got to love him. I love him. Please love him. And of course, I didn't do a darn thing. I didn't reach out. I didn't talk to anybody because, of course, you're terrified to do so. So I just sat back and waited. And I remember I got the call. I was in the middle of a movie. My phone buzzed. I ran outside and just burst into tears when he was going where he wanted to go. So I was emotionally invested, but he definitely did the work.
My daughter got exactly where she wanted to go into. She got into I believe it's a BFA program, and they only accept like 3 girls, and it was amazing.
That's huge. Oh my gosh, congratulations to her. I'm so excited for her. She's going to have so much fun. And to get what your dream is already, come on. Amazing.
What do you think the coolest thing you've been able to do for your child or moment you've been able to give him because of your fame or celebrity?
Oh, I think going to Comic-Con was pretty cool with CJ. I think that we had some people come up to us and talk to us that he wouldn't have otherwise been able to meet. And that was, he loved at the time YouTube. He was watching all his gaming people. And so we were able to meet people that he probably wouldn't otherwise have met. And he still talks about it. But, my work hasn't really come into play in his life terribly much. I mean, we don't really talk about it. It's not a big deal in our house. But I think that was probably the one instance where I did say, all right, come be part of this because I think it'll be fun for you. So I think he enjoyed that. I really do.
It's funny. I've done Comic-Con for about 17 years now, and the new one is about 3 weeks away. And my Comic-Con experience is different than yours, because you get to go to Hall H. You get to have that great experience. I'm sitting in a booth signing comic books. Do you miss that any bit?
So, my boyfriend is a game designer. He does Lightfox games. And so his experience is probably similar to yours, where you're like, all right, come see this. And it's really cool. And I'm creating this. I do feel that my experience there is pretty skewed because we go in, we're kind of ushered onto the stage. We have this little moment and then we leave again. But I did put on a helmet one time and go through and get to be really in Comic-Con. So my son had a little Master Sergeant helmet and I wore that all the way through. So I got to hang out with him down on the floor and it was so fun.
Well, I can't tell you how great it's been talking to you. Your movie starts on July 4th.
You too.
And I look forward to talking to you again, Elizabeth.
Oh, I really loved it. Thank you for all the questions. They were so insightful and kind, and I wish you the very best.
Thank you.